We have a really long history in this country of collective ownership and collective living that actually, where we are at the moment, sort of in 2023, is really a kind of a new situation, sort of post-war mortgages, owning houses and owning flats in the city centre wasn't really a thing. So, we've become used to it, obviously, because it's kind of what we know as our generations here. But that's not necessarily a good thing. And certainly if you look at the housing market at the moment, I mean, it shouldn't be a market. That's the kind of the number one problem that I think the Community Land Trust is trying to offset, is that the places where people live shouldn't be an asset for usually not necessarily private gain, but for large organisations.
So as someone who works freelance as well, I think there's particular opportunities with Community Land Trust there in terms of the types of housing that they can offer, or access to housing and spaces that they can offer, which other forms of development cannot. So typically, as someone who's self-employed, it can be difficult finding properties in the rental market because they often seek sort of proof of a kind of secure job, which working self-employed can often be presented as, can either look or even sometimes be quite precarious. So that's one issue that self-employed people often face. Another is also when sort of accessing finance, so getting a mortgage to purchase a home. Again, they look for sort of secure or forms of employment. So I think there's different ways of types of tenure that can be offered through a community land trust, but some of them can provide opportunities for people who do have other models of employment.
I think it's great. I suppose that's the bottom line as to why I wanted to be involved. I think there's so many disused buildings within many cities, particularly Sheffield, and the first sort of go-to answer for a lot of people is to demolish those buildings, and I don't agree with that. I suppose from my architectural perspective, I think retrofitting spaces to give back to the community or put them in the hands of different communities is a lot more environmentally friendly and socially engaging, and we've got so many communities within Sheffield that could really benefit from that space. I think that's really important.
It's the very nature of community land trust operations that there is a long tail of benefit. It's not just the fact that they're built and the whole organisational structure is built for the benefit of the community, but also that as the proceeds of the operation of any building are realised, the profits, if you like, instead of going to an outside business interest, they're being retained. They're staying in the city, they're being reinvested in the community. So it's not just the immediate benefit, but actually the benefits begin to accrue and grow exponentially when you get the thread of community development going as a mainstream thing, because, as I say, you have this retention of wealth, you have this idea that as the community uses its buildings, pays for the use of the buildings, that money's staying here. And so it's not going to support an investment group who might be outside the city, quite possibly these days in Britain, outside the country, people who've invested in order to take out. And we want to make sure that property development, particularly where it touches on residential, has this virtuous circle of retained wealth. And that's a sustainable concept.
And then also looking at what buildings there are in the city centre which we could perhaps retrofit. We don't want to, one of the key aims, I think, one of the key motivations for me is thinking about how we can not lose these buildings, which are really important to like the fabric of Sheffield city centre. So there's a lot of heritage within our building fabric, and there's a lot of civic pride as well. And I think civic pride is a really important thing. And if we don't nurture this city centre, we're going to lose the things that make it, that like give us pride or make us proud to live in Sheffield. And then also trying to create a sustainable future for new generations and communities to thrive within the city centre.
I think, so the model of the community land trust is to create something that is of community benefit in perpetuity. So almost by definition, it has a direct impact for future generations. More importantly, though, I think having pilot projects, experimental projects or trailblazing projects can hopefully pave the way for more of this type of projects to be implemented. We're very aware that it's quite difficult to make it happen. There's a lot of effort, a lot of volunteer time dedicated, but if we manage to make it easier for the next projects, that would be kind of a really important outcome of our first project.
Yeah, so where we're at the moment, we've applied for a large pot of funding from the South Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority, and that's going to help us look at feasibility studies. So we're going to look at different buildings in the site, look at how suitable they are to convert, and we'll hopefully then be working with a consultant team who can advise us on that. The other thing that we'll be looking at would be widening our membership, and it's really important that we get a really diverse, large group of people from the city that are interested in affordability and housing issues. As part of that process, I guess we've been working with Roundabout, who are a youth homelessness charity, City of Sanctuary, who are working with asylum seekers and refugees, to really get a big mix, in particular young people, to get them involved in this decision-making process that might take some time. The other thing that we've tried to focus on, I guess, is not just housing, but workspace. There's an issue with a lot of insecure tenure of workspace for arts organisations and charities, in particular in the city centre. And we're trying to really make sure that that's part of the mix, so that there's a place for those organisations to be based. And that creates a much more mixed and interesting community within a building than just a single use.